Sorry.
So rude. Yes.
Welcome everyone to the Unready room. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, is Brandi, Jackola, and we're here to talk about Star Trek, some of our favorite things in the world to talk about, and in particular, the TNG episode Relics. So, season 6, episode 4, and it's the Scotty episode. So, really excited to talk about that. Brandi, how are you doing today?
I am hot. Because we don't have central air, so I have to turn off the air conditioner to do the show. And I have already had the air conditioner off for 2 hours when I was recording an episode of the Vedic Assembly. So I'm just kind of like, just wet in all of my bendy parts, like the insides of my elbows, the backs of my knees, where my legs meet my torso. I'm damp and uncomfortable, but I look good.
You do, absolutely. I have to say, around here, this is the first non-hot day we've gotten in a while. It's kind of cold and rainy and dreary today, but I'm okay with it because we've needed this for a while.
I'm so jealous. That's my favorite kind of day, cold and rainy. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Generally speaking, so first of all, of course, welcome to everyone who's joined us live. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone who's watching this later. Really do appreciate you as well. Generally speaking, I think this is a fairly popular episode.
Oh, yes.
It rated the highest, of course, in the poll, and so is the one we are talking about tonight. But we have some issues, which we've already been talking about, and I see that the chat has already lit up with some issues. So TJ, bringing his angry, pedantic astronomy nerd rant on this episode. They called the eruption from the Dyson Sphere star a solar flare. That is wrong. It is, as he says, a stellar flare. The term solar exclusively applies to exactly one star in the universe, Sol, aka Earth's sun. So there you go. We are huge fans of nerdy pedantry and angry astronomy facts, I guess, here. So that is very welcome. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate that. Well, I mean, when you think about it, do we call it a solar nursery? No, we call it a stellar nursery.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's stellar flare. I'm gonna have to, if I ever find myself writing Star Trek, whether that's fingers crossed, maybe something professional someday, or just like fanfic, I'm gonna have to remember that, and I'll credit you for that. Stellar flare. I'm gonna work that in. Absolutely.
Good on you, TJ. Good on you.
Yeah, thank you. Relics, known as the Scotty episode, as I said, and probably, as has been said, a bit of a ratings grab at the time. Maybe let's bring one of the classic characters back. Let's bring Scotty back. But I do have to say, an episode that when I was younger, I absolutely loved. I watched this episode so many times to the point where I was kind of sick of it when it came on television. But now it's been probably about a decade since I've seen it. So I did watch it again today to prepare, and darn if I didn't really enjoy it again. So thanks for picking this one and letting me pick up a classic again.
Nice. Well, I kind of felt like it was going to be the winner when it didn't have the lead at first, but it quickly built up momentum and then just stayed at the top for the rest of the hours of the poll. So I was prepared.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about it. The episode starts with the Enterprise finding a distress call from the USS Jackola and tracking it down and coming out of warp to some strong gravimetric fields and distortions and discovering a Dyson sphere, which is a pretty momentous discovery. They do, they're pretty hyped about it in this episode, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, do you realize what you found here? Like, the amount of material needed to create a Dyson sphere would require like thousands of star systems worth of material. And I'm going to do a little plug for the novel verse, there's a novel called Dyson Sphere that deals with the aftermath of this, and they do point out that like for light years around this space in like a bubble, there's just no star systems because whoever created this like harvested all of that and created this Dyson Sphere. So they're in awe a little bit, but I feel like they should have been just like minds blown about finding this thing, right?
I agree completely. In fact, I feel like that is one of the detriments of this episode, that they don't spend more time talking about / exploring / maybe there are some logs to download somewhere of the Dyson Sphere. This is a thing that had only existed in theory, and now here it is in front of you, and then you're inside it, and it's just, not a big deal anymore. Like, I want to know everything there is to know about this Dyson Sphere. You could have spent like 3 episodes on that, and I would have been completely engrossed and satisfied, and instead we get nothing.
Yeah, and actually, Aaron, Geek Filter, has a good point. Like, 3 episodes, like you could do a series based on this thing. Like, I forget the exact number, but Data says something like, 200,000 times the surface area of a Class M planet or something like that. Like, yeah, this thing is massive. I probably have that number low too, but yeah, like, anyway, it's kind of weird that it gets paired with the episode where they bring Scotty back, because of course the focus has to be on Scotty, but like this could be a huge episode in and of itself. But yeah, so it was interesting.
I feel like that plot point was wasted on this episode. You could have done something else that would have gotten the same plot point of Scotty putting himself in the transporter buffer, etc. But you take this thing that is never seen before or in Star Trek since, and you waste it on this? You don't even explore it?
Yeah.
It is a huge loss.
Absolutely. So more science pet entry, punk rock zoologist. Absolutely. Yeah. So there's various levels of the whole Dyson's thing. And yeah, the most realistic one would be like a Dyson swarm, which is, a bunch of bits of material at this orbit, basically, that create kind of a shell. I've also seen Dyson rings, I guess. I don't know if I've never read them, but I feel like that's what Ringworld, Larry Niven's thing is about. I'm not sure about that though.
Interesting.
But or is that I might be mixing up different authors and stuff too. But yeah, rotating habitats that fill that orbital sphere. And then this is the kind of most outlandish, not very plausible version of it is what we see here, this actual full shell containing the star, which like that's a type. I can't remember the classifications of civilization, but that's like the absolute top one. Like you're Q continuum type people at this point. But
yeah, just so weird that it's this amazing thing that we've never seen before, and we don't explore it, don't take any readings. I mean, surely people had to leave behind logs. I mean, how many billions of people were initially there? Just okay.
All you need to do is find one library. Like,
yeah, it's just like, why wouldn't you give me more?
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm on board with the series. Let's have Star Trek Dyson Sphere. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm on board for that. That sounds great. Wellington Smith's comment, I love. Brandi's pitch for the episode. Oh, look, there's Scotty Nice, but there's a friggin' Dyson Sphere here. Let's study that. Yeah,
that's me. Absolutely.
Awesome. And punk rock zoologist. Apparently that is Larry Niven's Ringworld. Okay, good. I started to speak authoritatively, not having actually read it, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. So we have the Dyson Sphere. They find out that the Janolan is crashed on the surface, and they go down, and there's someone trapped in the not trapped. There's someone who's used the transporter buffer as a lifeboat, basically, and they energize, and it's Scotty. So there we go. That's how we bring him forward 75 years.
Yeah.
So I guess we can address the elephant in the room, which is the like retroactive continuity error that's created by the later film Star Trek Generations, because
Yep. Was just
of,
going to bring that up.
exactly. So yeah, yeah, the reason for your name there, of course, the whole scene where Scotty says, "Oh, it's the Enterprise. I bet Jim Kirk himself brought the old ship out of mothballs to come looking for me." Which, you know, at the time they didn't know Star Trek Generations was a thing in that scene where Scotty definitely believes Kirk has died in that movie. So,
Yes, he does.
yeah, indeed. I always like the explanation that the like 0.03% degradation of the pattern was just that little bit of his memory that
Okay, sure, why not? But that's awfully conveniently specific.
I kind of like it. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little too specific, though. Just a little bit.
The other thing is, you know, he just was spent 75 years in the transporter buffer. Like maybe he's just a little, ooh, as he comes out. You know, you never know.
Well, would he
A little
even be conscious? I mean, obviously he wouldn't be conscious of time passing, or else he
Mhm.
wouldn't have he would have realized that it had been 75 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So he obviously was not aware of the passage of time, which is
Mhm.
good.
Yeah,
That's good for him.
presumably he stepped in and like dematerialized and then from his perspective rematerialized seconds later kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think. So, makes sense. Okay. So, we've got Scotty. We've got him in the 24th century, and you know, you've got this living legend from 75 years ago, one of Starfleet's foremost engineers. Literally, okay, just a side note, I'm watching Parks and Rec for the first time right now. So he's
It's so
literally wrote the book. Anyway, yes. So yeah, he literally wrote the book in a lot of cases on
great.
engineering and stuff. And we've got him on the Enterprise, and I guess he's just going to hang out alone in his quarters, right? That's the best use for
Yeah.
him.
Because, we can't have him actually being helpful because that's not conducive to the plot. So we're going to make Geordi act out of character and be a
Yeah.
complete a-hole to him. And I'm just like, okay, so people in the 24th century are just as petty as they are now? No, nope, nope, nope,
Mhm.
nope. That whole scene, I was just like, nope, 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 nope. This is not how Geordi would act. This is not
Yeah.
what Geordi would say. It really, really bothered me more this time than any time before that I had watched this episode. And I think
Yeah.
that's because as I get older, I'm so much more sensitive to ageism.
Mhm.
And basically, he's treating Scotty like a doddering old fool, which he knows the man is not.
Mhm.
And so it's just really, I honestly really just don't understand why they wrote the scene that way. They had to do it the way they did it because reasons, because motivation. And
Yeah.
I just feel like, no.
Yeah.
But then again, I can think of other examples where Geordi has been an a-hole to other people like Barkley. And
Yeah.
somebody in the chat said it too. So, it was Aaron. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing though, is that I don't think that that's really Geordi's character. And so it bothers me every time it happens.
Mhm.
Because I think of Geordi as a much more amiable, gentle soul and not this guy who's just like, I am trying to get things done and frankly you're in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
No.
pretty brutal. And I mean, obviously from Jordy's perspective, and I'm gonna I hate the term and I don't like it, but I'm gonna do devil's advocate for a little bit here, where obviously, yes, he is trying to get work done, he's under time pressure and all that kind of thing. But I can think of like 10 different ways to handle that situation and still be able to get to work and that kind of thing. Okay. We have like I said, one of the greatest engineering minds in Starfleet. He's 75 years behind the times, of course, so he's not going to be helpful in that moment. But why doesn't Geordi say, like, hey, call over one of his assistant engineers, say, like, grab all the technical update manuals from the computer, like, sit down with Scotty if he has any questions. You're his go-to. I need to get this done when I'm done this thing that he says is going to take an hour. I'll meet up with you, see how things are going, and we can go from there. Or talk to the history department of the Enterprise. We know there are historians on staff. They would be thrilled to talk to this guy. I don't understand why he's like left in his quarters with Ensign no-name teenager pimply-faced kid to show him how the replicator works and then just leave him alone. I'd never get that.
Yeah. Well, and of course, this brings about the point that where is Counselor Troy?
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where is Guinan?
Guinan was alive when Scotty was alive. Like, they would totally relate.
So much so. It's just kind of like, okay, so the person who most needs counseling with how to deal with being 75 years in the future, and your counselor is persona incognito. She's nowhere until the very end. And this is the season of the terrible Troy hair. Oof.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that until I got to the very end, and it's
like, what is happening there? What did they do? It's like, please stop making her wear that wig, please.
Now, I did look up a little bit of background stuff to this episode, and this is like seconds before we went live, and I hadn't realized this, but apparently there was a deleted scene between Scotty and Troy where she does a little bit of counseling with him, and they address certain things like they skirt the issue of other TOS characters who are alive at this time by Troy asking Scotty, do you want to know what happened to your friends and family? And Scotty says, I'm not really ready to learn that right now. So they kind of get around that. But it also explains why, if you watch this episode at the very end, the only line Troy has in the entire episode is goodbye. And she kisses Scotty, and they part ways, even though apparently, according to what we've seen, they've never even met. So this would have explained that a little bit. But apparently the episode was 8 minutes long, and that was like the only scene they could cut that wouldn't make the episode not make sense, kind of thing. So,
well, it still makes the episode not make sense.
Yeah, it was like the lesser of 5 evils by the sounds of it. So, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. I still disagree with that decision.
I absolutely disagree with that decision, and I want to point out that, like, so I've got James Doohan as Scotty here. I've got Patrick Stewart and Marina Sirtis as consolation prize for having only one line in this episode. I decided she needs a place for this, so she's on my shelf for this episode. Oh, yes. Man. Yeah, it's really too bad because if nothing else, it's a missed opportunity like that. I bet you that would have been a great scene. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too. There are a lot of things I would have loved to have seen in this episode that were not
there. Yeah. What we do get, though, I do enjoy. Like, I do still really like this episode. And I know you've got 45 minutes to kind of get the story going. So you've got to create this conflict. You got to have Scotty feeling down and all this stuff. But it's kind of unfortunate that that's the way it goes. But let's pop to the 10 forward scene where he's discovered 10 forward and he's like, oh, this is kind of cool. And is not aware of synthahol, which leads to one of mine, and I think one of your favorite lines in the episode as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's like, whatever this is, it is definitely not Scotch.
Absolutely. And then so Data explains synthahol to him and says, you're not exactly human, are you? He says, no, I am an android. And Scotty has one of my favorite lines.
Yes.
Synthetic Scotch, synthetic commanders.
Yeah, and he doesn't even mean it in an offensive way. And Data
No.
certainly doesn't take offense either. And Data actually helps him out. He's like, okay, well, Guinan has a private stock of stuff. Let's see what's down here. And he brings out the I love it. I love the whiskey. He's like, and what is it? He's like looking at it. There's no label. So he takes the cork out, smells it. It is green.
Okay, 10,000 Quatlus to the first person in the chat who can tell me what episode of the original series that line is a reference to, because I love that really clever callback to an episode of the original series, which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see. I'll watch and see who gets it. My money's on Aaron. I'll see if anybody else beats him to it. So, but
the clock is ticking, clock is ticking, clock is ticking.
But I do love that. And of course, Picard identifies it later as Aldebaran whiskey and says, "Who do you think gave Guinan the bottle?" So yeah, there's.
I love how he just takes it, and Scotty's trying to warn him, and he just downs the whole glass. Aldebaran whiskey, and Scotty's eyes are just big as saucers. It was great.
Oh, and Patrick got it. The episode was By Any Other Name.
Any other name.
Yep, and it was the Kelvins from the Andromeda Galaxy, and Scotty drunk one of them under the table by.
Of course he did.
Of course, by going through his entire stash until he got to this bottle. And he's like, well, "What is it?" It's like, "It's green." Gives it to him, and yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it has the Kelvins. That's the correct one there.
Yep.
But yeah, so Scotty, having imbibed a bit of this, makes his way to the holodeck, which is a lot of fun and one of my favorite bits in TNG at this time. You get to see the classic Enterprise bridge, the little bit of it, the little quarter of it they built for the episode, which was really clever. They used two other shots besides just the little bit they built. They have a full bridge shot from the original series that they used, that they green screened in front of, and then I think the shot you can tell a little bit. It's pretty
no, not a little bit. In high def, it is glaringly obvious.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little more forgiving for that stuff.
Yeah, well, I've seen some wonky visual effects on Next Generation, but this one, they just could not make me believe that wasn't a shot from TOS. It was so much grainier than everything else, and just see, in the original viewing of it, of course, it was just SD. We didn't know about HD back then, and so it worked fine, but nowadays,
the other shot we do get is the view from the captain's chair over the helm and navigation with the TOS planet on the view screen, which I love. I love that. I thought that was great. And the fact that the planet looked TOS-y as well, I was like, that's good.
That one didn't bother me at all. That's, I mean, it was still a little, but it didn't bother me as much as when he first goes into the holodeck and when they leave the holodeck. I'm just like, no.
Yeah, that's an issue that that particular shot, obviously, there's the graininess and stuff, but I always, like, anytime anyone's turning off the holodeck or walking out and they have the yellow grid behind them, I'm just very conscious of the fact that it's in front of a green screen. Like, it just, it's always just a little bit off, but that's okay. It's and Aaron, you're not wrong. It's still
no, that's true, but I mean, it looks extra bad now. And the thing is, we know that they had an actual set with the grid on it because it's been in other episodes. So why not just use it?
Yeah, I don't know. It might be one of those I've never looked into it, but it might be one of those temporary things that they built a few times and then they're like, ugh, it's too much of a pain for a few seconds or something like that. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, you know, back in the day, it was a little, but in high def, ouch, ouchie.
I gotta say though, and I'm not excusing that and all that stuff.
Of course,
but
that's fine.
I've got to say, if we had a holodeck, I would almost want it to look a little grainy if you're on the original series bridge. I'd be like, yes, this is how I remember it.
If I'm going to pretend I'm in the world of Casablanca, I don't want it colorized. Everyone should be in black and white.
Exactly. Oh man. Besides that though, this scene, I love this scene of the two characters, Picard and Scotty, reminiscing about their old ships. And I almost have to say, especially Picard talking about the Stargazer. Like, that's something that we don't get enough exploration of. And like, he captained the Stargazer, I think, or at least was on the Stargazer for something like over 2 decades. Like, that was a huge part of his career. And I love him. There's one other one, I think, in The Wounded, where he's talking about running at warp 9 ahead of a Cardassian ship or something because they got a little too brazen or something like that in The Wounded, I think, in season 4. But I love whenever he talks about the Stargazer. It's just like, you feel like this old salt reminiscing about glory days or something.
Right. And he really isn't that old. I mean, at this point in the series, he's like, what, early 50s? So that's only a few years away from me. And I don't feel like an old salt.
Not at all.
Maybe I act like an old salt about, holodeck didn't look good.
Oh, yeah. Nah. But I love this scene. And then, of course, Scotty reminiscing about the original Enterprise. I had the thought in the back of my mind, though, when he says to the computer, the Enterprise NCC 1701, no bloody A, B, C, or D. I was like, I want to almost see a re-edit of this where the doors open and it's the Discovery version of the Enterprise. Just to make people's heads explode.
I would pay money to see that. I absolutely would. Funny story, in the Star Trek Timelines mobile game, if you choose Scotty from that era, and there are multiple versions of every character because all the timelines have collided together. And sometimes when you click on a certain character, like to put them on a ship or to send them on a shuttle mission or whatever, they will say something, and that's his is NCC 1701 Noble, and it goes on for the whole thing. It's great. Like, yes, snap it up, Scotty. I got more people to put on this boat. Come on.
Geek filter, Aaron. That would be pretty funny. Long shot. There are currently 19 people watching this. Very unlikely that you're out there, but maybe if you're watching this later, someone has access to the original film of Scotty against the green screen or blue screen or whatever they used. Let's get that footage so we can just drop that in there.
I want to see it. I want to see it on the internet. I want people to lose their minds. I want that. I want to just sit back with popcorn and enjoy my evening. Just be so great.
That would be great. Okay.
Yes.
enough nerd baiting, I think.
Sorry. Well.
Oh no, that was me. That was all me.
Well, only a good nerd knows how to bait another nerd. So
absolutely. Yeah. But you could. I mean, he didn't have to specify further from the registry number. There's Pike's version as seen in the cage. There's the motion picture version. There's the Wrath of Khan version, which was slightly different. Like, yeah, there could have been all kinds of different bridges that like they could have done if he was just like, no, not that one, no, so. But the computer knew.
Yeah, the computer knew. The computer is either sentient or it can read your mind, both of which are scary.
No, absolutely. Oh man. Okay. So the Forge basically gets ordered by Picard to not be a dick anymore. I'm shorthanding this, but
that is so true though. That is succinct and perfect. That is exactly what happens.
Pretty much. And Picard has to point out kind of the obvious to Geordi that, like, hey, you're going to go down and work on this, old starship. Maybe the guy who was around when it was commissioned could help you out a little bit. Might be useful. It seems weird that Picard has to convince Geordi of that a little bit, because Geordi seems a little reticent, which at that point I don't get, because like that's perfect for Scotty.
Yeah, it is. And besides that, that's when he has to go a step further and explain that people need to feel useful.
Mm-hmm.
He shouldn't have to explain that to Geordi. He really shouldn't. But again, a lot of the time, these behaviors come out of plot convenience more than, being true to the character. And I feel like if someone today was writing this episode, it would be very different and more sensitive, I guess. Is the best word.
Yeah, that makes sense. The one thing I will say is, like, thinking back to me as a kid watching this, I don't obviously remember the first time I ever watched this episode, but I do remember so many times from Star Trek getting like just a little bit of a life lesson, that, like, because obviously Picard's talking to the audience there, right? It's like sometimes older people need a little, and I can't say for sure, but maybe the first time I watched this as a kid, I was like, I never thought of that. That makes sense, that maybe older people do feel a little bit like they're neglected and that kind of thing. Maybe I should think about that more. But yeah, it doesn't make sense that Picard has to explain this to Geordi, and but as a viewer, I feel like I appreciated that as a kid. It feels very patronizing now as a, on the cusp of my 40s.
Yeah, well, and even as a teenager, I was just kind of like, I already know this lesson. Why don't you, Geordi?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like,
yeah.
But then I would have been, let's see, actually, I might have been not a teenager at that point. This was season 6, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would have made it 1993. That means I was 20. So
okay,
not quite a teenager anymore.
I would have been, if it was 1993, I would have been 10 for most of the year. Sorry.
It's okay. I understand. I understand I'm just a relic now.
It's relevant. Oh my God. No.
Well, no, as a woman who is middle-aged, being relevant is a difficult thing because women still just are not accepted for, who they are and how old they are and whatnot. There's still this, you must be young and beautiful and thin, and anyone who's not that, it just kind of gets sidelined and not listened to and put on a shelf like, your life is over. Just like, I got lots of life left to live and plenty of things to say. So buckle in, kids, because I ain't going anywhere.
Awesome. So yeah, Geordi and Scotty go down to the Janolan and are working on, getting the logs and all that kind of stuff. And we get some great scenes, I think, between Scotty and Geordi on the ship there, which I really enjoy. And, Scotty, although he doesn't have to, but he proves his worth quite a bit on this, where, like, obviously he's very familiar with the systems and knows what it'll take to get them to work. And again, at that part where he literally tells Geordi that he literally wrote the book on the engineering stuff. It'll hold. I wrote those regulations. You try to be a bit conservative on paper, but yeah, it'll work. I love that.
Just bypass this and boost the flow. It's fine.
It'll hold. It's fine.
And it does. For a time. But it was never meant to hold forever.
Yeah.
They were just trying to hold it long enough to get the Enterprise back out of the Dyson sphere, wherein brings up another question for me.
Uh-oh. I have a feeling I know where you're going.
Can they suddenly transport through shields?
Apparently.
What the hell?
Yeah. So that was a big one. So we're fast forwarding a bit, but yeah, the Enterprise gets pulled into the Dyson sphere when they hail the thing and they're stuck inside. and Scotty and Geordi use the Janolan to prop open the doors using the shields to hold open the doors. So it's like plot relevant. It's not like, oh, we don't know if the shields they were definitely on. And they have to destroy the Janolan because their engines are out. They can't move out of the way. So Picard beams them aboard, then fires the torpedoes to destroy the ship. And then we get that like really cool visual effect.
Oh, yeah.
All models at the time, of course, by the way, with the gorgeous, twist and going through the door. That was beautiful. But yeah, beaming through the shields. I remember that bugging me as a kid, and it bugs me to this day.
Yeah, because it's been established vehemently over and over that you have to drop your shields to transport someone aboard or beam them off. And so I can understand if they were close enough to where they could drop the shields and they'd still have enough room to get out. But that's not what they did. They ignored their own rules and just beamed them out with the shields still up.
Yeah. Yeah, it would just need like one line of Scotty or LaForge saying dropping shields or something like that. Or I think you could even re-edit it as is to have Picard say fire torpedoes, and then they show the torpedoes streaking towards the ship and the first one hits and the shields. Then it cuts to the bridge, energize, you could do like the really last second beam out thing, like the first torpedo takes out the shields or something. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, that always bugged me because it's very specific. We're on Picard the whole time. There's no cutaway. He says energize and then fire torpedoes, right? So yeah. I always like the Star Trek fans, because I do this too. They're trying to explain things. Wellington, maybe they beamed them through the Dyson sphere wall, like to the right of the shield. Like it was pressing on the shield, made a hole in the shield. Yeah, okay. Probably not.
No. The only thing that I can come up with myself is that the shields were failing. And it had to be timed very precisely, but they were waiting for that millisecond. Like basically, I could see them programming the transporter to scan the shields, and the minute, the millisecond that those shields blinked out at any one area, transporter energized. I can see that, but they didn't do that. They didn't give us any explanation for how they could do that, and I figure they just were lazy. They made things happen because it's the way the plot has to do it, rather than making the plot have to obey the rules that they've already established.
And like, you would only need one line too. Like, Riker could say, it could even be something as simple as, but their shields are up. Will we be able to beam them out? And then Data says something like, that ship uses a rotating modulation shield that was in style 80 years ago. Our modern transporters can beam through that type of shield, or something like that. Be like, perfect. And which is kind of what's said here. But, just needed a line to explain that or something. Yeah.
It's not clear that those shields were nothing compared to the modern transporters, because if they're going to make that assumption, they need to communicate that to their viewers.
Yeah.
So, but also, another way that they could have done it was Data saying, "Sir, we won't be able to beam them out through the shields unless we can find a weak point, blah, blah, blah." And then Picard saying, "Data, get down to transporter room 1 and take care of this. You're going to be the most precise person to handle this. You go take care of this." That would have made perfect sense to me.
And then Data runs down the corridor going, "I can do that. I can do that.
I can do that."
Wait, nope, that's wrong.
No. But yeah.
But yeah, so we do get the I think gorgeous visual effects in this episode and stuff. And that climax is sufficiently stirring and all that stuff. And now Geordi and Scotty are best friends. And the one thing I did like is every story Scotty started telling to various people were actual episodes of the original series. And then at the end, we know that everything's come around full circle because Geordi is now the one telling a story of a previous episode of TNG from Galaxy's Child. So I like that little bit of symmetry there.
Yeah, an episode that makes me very uncomfortable.
Yes.
So,
for the record,
so
agreed.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Part of me in the back of my mind is like, Geordi, is that the episode you want to be bragging about? Like, yeah. Yeah. Awkward. But, yeah. So Scotty thinks that they're going to 10 forward and Geordi's going to buy him a drink. But in fact, they're headed to the shuttle bay and they're apparently giving Scotty one of their shuttlecraft to kind of tool around in.
Extended loan.
Extended loan. Yes, absolutely. The shuttlecraft Goddard. I always, in the back of my mind, and I remember watching this as a kid, thinking like it would be kind of funny and awkward if like they were just throwing him a going away party and the shuttle bay was the best place to do it. And he walks in and the first thing he says, "You're giving me one of your shuttlecraft?" And God's like, no. What? Why would you think no? What? Well, this is awkward. But no, they are.
Yeah, or they would just kind of look at each other uncomfortably and then go, "Yeah, yeah,
absolutely." Oh God, we're gonna have to write this off to Starfleet. Eesh.
We totally are. Well, they don't use money, so. And besides that, shuttles never actually disappear from any starship in the Federation. We know this to be true. How many times have shuttles been destroyed on TNG or Deep Space Nine or Voyager, and yet they still have a full complement later?
Yep, absolutely. Oh man, sorry, I'm reading some of the comments and yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one alone. Okay.
Yeah. Best to just move on.
Yeah. So yeah, they're giving him a shuttlecraft. I always thought that ending was strange as a kid, that like he's just gonna kind of go do things with his shuttlecraft. Like I kind of never understood where the story of him could go from there. But if you read the novels, there's some interesting Scotty stories that follow on from this. And he becomes like the head of the Starfleet Corps of Engineers, which is like perfect job for him. Yeah, there's some good stuff for Scotty to come if you read the novels. I was always sad that he never showed up again in like canon Star Trek on screen.
Yeah.
But
that's so typical though of that period of Star Trek.
Yeah.
just so typical. Just kind of like Mm-hmm. And in fact, when I was watching it this last time, it's like, and he's never heard from again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you imagine being stuck in one of those shuttlecraft, by the way? Like
claustrophobia. Ugh.
Yeah. Ugh. Where's the toilet? I'm sure it's one of those pull-out bench things, but like,
yeah,
really?
Which wall is it in? You know.
Yeah,
because there's gotta be a head on there somewhere. You have to have toilet facilities for organic life forms. That's all there is to it.
Absolutely. You can't just roll down a window and look for a gas station. That's not
which makes you really wonder about that trip that Wesley and Picard took.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I hope they have like a door that like extends around it and they're not just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so. How many times do they show people like leaving the ship for like weeks at a time on some trip somewhere, like, and there's like 4 people in a shuttlecraft? That doesn't seem, there's nowhere to change even.
No, there's really not. Unless there's stuff there that we can't really see. I mean, we only really see one part of a shuttlecraft at all times. Maybe there's more. No, the doors are right at the back. There's nowhere else to go in there. No. I mean, at least the runabouts had some room.
Wow.
You know, why just these tiny shuttles?
Absolutely. By the way, unintentionally, yes, I kind of realized as I was saying it, I was like, where's that? Oh, Apollo 13. Where for those wondering, it was the live broadcast from Apollo 13, and they were asked, how do you go to the bathroom in space? And Jim Lovell, Tom Hanks' version of him anyway, says something along the lines of, it's a highly technical process of rolling down a window and looking for a gas station or something like that.
Yeah. It's really, it's a vacuum. It's a vacuum. Yeah. It's a closet with a vacuum in it. That's basically what it is. I learned that from Space Camp, the movie. Not that I've been to Space Camp.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right on. Yeah. So we kind of talked about the Deanna Troi thing. She just shows up at the end to give Scotty a kiss, and her entire line in the final episode is goodbye. That's all she says in the whole episode. Which I remember noticing as a kid, but I'm sad to say this time watching it, when I was watching, I didn't even think of it until she showed up at the end. I was like, wait a minute, where has she been this whole episode? So yeah. No. Anything else that we should talk about with regards to this episode before we give our, I guess, final thoughts and ratings, both yourself and myself and those in the chat?
Scotty's reaction when he first sees Worf.
Yes. Which carries through right to the very end. Like, he shakes everyone's hand and says goodbye and just kind of goes,
he just gives a wide berth to Worf, who just kind of eyes him as he's walking. Like, Worf's leaning into it. He's absolutely leaning into it, and I think enjoying it just a smidge.
Oh, totally. I did love that. Lieutenant. Yes, sir.
Yeah, at least he didn't say something racist.
Yeah, that's true. There's a little bit of a, I do have to say, watching this with Nikki, she did kind of raise a brow and look at me when Scotty says one thing about this Enterprise: the doctors are a fair sight prettier. Yeah. She kind of gave me a look there, and I was like, yeah. I mean, well, in our minds, we can go like, oh yeah, he's thinking about Bones, ha ha ha. But
yeah. Don't make him sound like a dirty old man. That's not our Scotty. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're trying to be charming there, but like, charming in 1992 has kind of become a little not so much now, I think. I feel like, anyway.
Well, to women, to women, it wasn't charming then either.
No, absolutely. And when I say that, I meant like what?
I know.
Yeah, not that it was charming in 1992, but like it was read as charming to the script writers in 1992. Yeah. Charm in quotes. That's a good way to put it. TOS charm. Yeah. So final thoughts and a rating for Relics?
This is not my favorite episode. I know a lot of people love it, and I'm glad that they do. I really am. I just I feel like there's a lot that could have been done better and wasn't, and I'm still bitter about the whole just, it's a Dyson sphere, no big deal, sort of attitude. And so it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like 3.5 out of 5 synthetic commanders for me. So not the worst, but not my favorite.
Yeah.
Somebody's at our door.
Indeed.
Dave will answer it. That's weird.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I still really enjoy the episode because I love the character of Scotty. I was so stoked to see him show up on TNG. And I think like when I was a kid, I only started watching TNG in season 5. And I had watched like the original series younger than that, like in reruns all the time. I was like, that was my first love for Star Trek. So to see him show up in TNG, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing since Unification Part 1 and 2, actually. I still really enjoy it. I do have those issues that you talk about with the Dyson sphere that TJ mentions here as well as you, Brandi. And some of the plot hole stuff kind of bugs me a little bit. But I think in the end, I would have to give it, I'd say 4 out of 5 historians who are only just now learning that Scotty was aboard after he leaves on the shuttlecraft and are lined up outside Picard's ready room to like have words with him for why they didn't get a chance to talk to him.
That's the best rating, period. That's perfect.
Yeah, the 5th one just couldn't be arsed, but
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that always bugged me. I was like, they've talked about the historians that work on the Enterprise before. I would have been so mad. Anyway. I know that's not the story they were telling this episode, but still.
Yeah, but it just makes, there are so many things that would make logical sense to have happen, but it's the characters being made to serve the plot than the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that always bugs me because that's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. We do have an update from Dave. Wrong house. So
wrong house. Yes. Well, there are numbers on our house. So if you are at the wrong house, you don't know how to read numbers. So thank you, random stranger, for disturbing us.
I don't know why, but that just randomly reminded me of a rant I saw about like who keeps their phone or clock on military time? What the heck does 1405 even mean? Who understands that? And then somebody replied to them as like, okay, so way to advertise that you can't count past 12.
Anyway. Ooh, snap. Yeah, military time is actually pretty simple. For anything after 12 p.m., actually, from anything after 12:59 p.m., you just add 12 to whatever number it is. So if it's 1 o'clock, that's 1300. If it's 8 o'clock, that's 2000. I mean, it's just really not hard.
And outside North America, that's not military time. That's just time.
That's the world clock up in there. I mean, come on. It's just time.
Well, I guess that's it for Relics. That was a fun discussion. I like this. I like these discussions. Now, in 2 weeks' time, I don't 100% know if I'm going to be available.
Okay.
I might be, but I might not be. So I think what we'll do, we'll pick an episode or film, but we might not be able to do it in 2 weeks. I hope we will, but I don't know for sure. I have a really weird job right now where they're like, oh, hey, we need you to go to this town 500 kilometers away for a week. Oh, okay. And when? Oh, tomorrow? Cool. So hopefully, but so yeah, I'm going to say, I guess the first 3 episodes are films from different series in the comments. We'll add to our poll, and then we'll pick a 4th one randomly. And TJ, that was my next point. The Lower Decks season premiere. Once Lower Decks starts, we will be doing the live shows for Lower Decks for the new shows. So this might be the last one, or this might be the last one before Lower Decks premiere. So we'll see.
Oh, it's so close. It's so close. It's so close, you guys.
Okay.
Shut up, Alexa. Nobody asked you.
All right. So we have Patrick chiming in first with
nice one.
E squared. Very nice. Very nice. We have Dave chiming in with his incredulousness at the kilometers measurement. I sometimes forget my audience. I'll put that out.
No, we understand. I have actually an app on my phone that now converts all of imperial system measurements to metric system.
I wish they were called Imperious. That sounds bad.
That's what it is now. It's the Imperious system. That's what it is now.
Oh man. So we have Linda with Rejoined is choice number 2. Excellent choice there. So E squared from Enterprise, Rejoined from Deep Space Nine, and Geek Filter Aaron got in there with an animated series. One of Our Planets is Missing. Excellent.
I'm so sorry that Wellington, you didn't get in there in time because, I love New Eden so much.
Oh,
But then
shoot.
the Discovery episode didn't win last time either, so I don't know why it would this time.
Oh.
Nobody wants to talk about Discovery.
Yeah. All right. So we have our 3. Maybe the 4th one will be a Discovery. Not sure.
Yeah, my luck doesn't run that way, so.
TNG. Okay, we have DS9, so Voyager, Enterprise. No, we have Enterprise. Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, I guess. Is that everything? You don't have Strange New Worlds yet? Okay.
Not yet. Or Prodigy yet.
Yeah. So number between 1 and 7, and we're choosing between the original series, the films, TNG, Voyager, Discovery, Picard, and Lower Decks.
Okay. Give me a number between 1 and 7.
It's 4.
4.
So we've got Voyager. Sorry,
Okay.
no Discovery there.
See, I told you. It's not the way my life works. Okay. Give me a number between 1 and 7. Again.
It's 5.
Season 5.
All
There are
right.
20, how many?
Should be 26, but let me just double check that. I don't think there's any like double episodes in season 5. 26 episodes, yeah.
Okay. Give me a number between 1 and 26.
The answer is 21.
21.
Ooh. Juggernaut. Interesting. Okay. So Juggernaut was the episode where there's this Malon freighter that's leaking radiation and stuff, and it's going to I think it's going to explode in a populated area or something. So Voyager tries to help shut it down and get rid of the danger. And it's a B'Elanna episode. So
I nod as if I've seen it. I haven't.
it's a really good episode.
I'll get there.
It's a good episode. I shouldn't say really good episode. It's a good episode. It's B'Elanna. I really like B'Elanna centered episodes. She can carry an episode like crazy. So
I love Roxanne Dawson.
Mhm.
She's just B'Elanna, one of my favorite characters of all time. Just
awesome.
And I don't pick favorites very easily, but she is way up there for me. She just this little powerhouse, half human, half Klingon, just so wonderfully portrayed by Roxanne. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll have a poll up shortly after we go off here, and you can vote for your favorite episode. That'll be on @PositivelyTrek, and we'll of course retweet that, and you'll be able to find that and vote early and vote often with as many Twitter accounts as you have. Because election fraud doesn't count when it's a Twitter poll. Who
exactly. Cares? It's not really fraud because you are representing other endeavors, and if corporations in this country are considered people, well, so are Twitter accounts.
Absolutely.
And I will vote with all 3 of the ones that I have access to.
I won't say how many I have.
Now, you have way more than I do. I know that.
It's getting out of hand. That's all I'll say. But so when you're not voting multiple times in the to poll, where can people find you, Brandi?
Here in my house, where random people think that we're another place, because no one can read anymore. The easiest place to find me is on Twitter, Brandi112. Brandi's with an I, 12 as a number. You can find out about my goings on and my rants about cosplay for bigger women. For the love of God, get on that. Do you know how much money companies could be making if they would just make things in plus sizes for women? I hate that word to describe larger women's sizes. Don't say plus sizes. You can't handle this plus. I can tell you right now. But anyway, I just I feel like that is a thing that should be a thing, and I'm getting really tired of not being able to find cosplay in my size for anything. Okay, so podcasts. I do podcasts. There's Infinite Trek, which we do at the end of every month. We do a round table, and this month is going to be really fun. And then and I'm not telling you what it is because you'll have to find out later. You just have to come and watch. Ha ha! And I do the Vedic Assembly with my friend Nick. We have recorded 2 episodes now, neither of which are out, but we just did the other one today. We're having a hell of a good time with that. Again, what the future holds is someday going to have another new episode, and someday we're going to record again on that one. Life happens, you guys. And that's actually the beauty of just being in control of your own podcast, is if you can't get it out at a certain time, well then, big deal, you know? We are beholden only unto ourselves. And then, of course, Boldly Go, a Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast, which I am going to get on Suzanne's case and say, come on, let's record an episode. And then I do the Dark Corner podcast with my husband, Dave, where we just talk about geeky things from a darker point of view. And that is at Dark Corner Podcast. No, the Dark Corner. DarkCornerPodcast.com. It's DarkCornerPodcast.com. I'm just going to stop now. Dan, you can be found places, I know.
Yep, absolutely. On Twitter at Kurtrats. That's just Star Trek backwards. Of course, this channel here, I haven't checked my subscriber numbers. I was at 4,997, I think, this week. So close to 5,000. I'm sure everyone watching this is already subscribed. So preaching to the choir here. I also know I have been a little lax on new videos lately. Again, that's the job that I'm currently in. I'm rarely at home. I'm really glad I was able to be home this weekend. But there will be lots of new videos coming. Of course, when Lower Decks starts coming out, I plan my usual huge number of videos. I don't care if I have to stay up late into the night working on those. I will be doing those, absolutely. And my podcast that I do with Bruce Gibson, Positively Trek, loving that project. It's been my favorite Star Trek thing for a long time. And thank you all so much, those of you who are subscribed and listening. It's so much fun. And of course, again, when Lower Decks starts, we'll be doing review episodes for those as well. So August will be busy regardless of what else is going on in my life. So yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on the Unready Room, whether that's in 2 weeks for one of these 4 episodes, or at the very latest for Lower Decks when it starts up again.
Indeed.
All right. And so until then, live long and prosper. I'm going to switch hands because I need this one.